Why your ego can be your best friend. In case we haven't met yet, I'm Jess. I'm the sole founder of Life in Confidence. And after spending 3 days away from my busy schedule and immersing myself, just me and all versions of me, my ego, my spirit, and all of that jazz, I was able to access and identify how my conditioning has been triggered when I'm in my ego and when the other person is operating from a place of ego. And what this has taught me is to set boundaries when someone is operating from a place of ego, so I can bring myself back into alignment with my spirit and to communicate and operate from a place of presence and truth. So how this showed up for me was throughout the retreat, I noticed there was this lady, and I would open the door for her to come out of the venue so I can go inside the venue. And every time that would happen, she would just walk straight through the door, doesn't see me, doesn't acknowledge me, doesn't say thank you. And I can see that my ego felt really annoyed by that I was attached to being seen, to be validated, and to be appreciated with a simple thank you or a smile. And when the retreat was over, I was at the train station waiting for the train back home, and she started to walk towards me at the train station, and she asked me, how many times have I been to this retreat? Have you been to other retreats? And I confirmed that I have. And as we went inside the train carriage, I found a seat, and there were limited seats. So she asked me, can we talk for 5 minutes? And I said, this is a silent carriage, we can't. And she walked away, and she was talking to the other retreaters. Even though it wasn't a silent carriage, I assumed it was because it was a country train. And I reflected on my response, and I thought to myself, Jess, how come you couldn't tell her the truth? How come you couldn't say no, and that I'm not available for conversation because I want to spend time reflecting from my experiences of the retreat? Why was that so difficult for me to say that? And as I observed myself in the process, I noticed there was a mental block. When someone is engaging from a place of ego and I get in my ego, it triggers my conditioning to be compliant, to be naive, and to say anything just to push people away so I can be left alone. This comes from childhood trauma number 3, the humanitarian, where you were extremely controlled and trained to be a good boy or a good girl by your mother. And this could be by your father as well, while you were a toddler growing up as a child and in your teenage years. And I felt suffocated when someone is requesting things from me and it's not coming from a place of heart, it's coming from a place of ego. Them wanting to use me and dispose me for the information that I have that holds value in their mind because it serves them from an egoic level. But they're not interested in connecting with me as a person. And I notice this showed up before I caught the train to the retreat on Friday, where I caught up for lunch with an acquaintance. And this was the 3rd time we caught up for lunch. And I was really curious about him running a conscious community in Japan, and he was curious about me running my soul-led business full-time in Sydney. And I was asking questions to get to know him as a person, and sometimes I couldn't even ask him questions because he was dominating the conversation every single time. He wasn't able to hold space. He would talk too much about his passion for philosophy, and he would ask me questions to pick my brain about how I operate in my business and how I made it successful. And I started to get tired that I have to make the effort to travel all the way to the city from Bondi to meet him, and he lives in the city, which is just a few minutes walk to get to a cafe, and that I make the reservations and the date and time, but it has to be on a weekday because he has kids. And so it wasn't a win for me because I need to work during the weekdays. And so I feel like there was a lot of sacrifice on my end to make an effort to come and see him. And it wasn't a mutually benefiting conversation or experience for me. So when he reached out to me to collaborate in a workshop in Sydney, because he has no contacts, no clientele, no connections in Sydney, and saw me as an opportunity to do that, I said yes, even though my gut said no. And as soon as we part ways, I went on the train to the retreat and I reflected, this is not what I wanted to do. Why did I do that? Just because he was going to put a good word for me to get a speaking gig in Tokyo for a mindfulness event. So while I was on the train from the retreat back home, and I turned on my phone and I saw his message, and the message was, hey, what was the name of that coach that makes millions in her coaching business? And I gave her the name, and even though he requested links, I didn't, because I feel the name was suffice to look her up. And I tuned with myself, and I felt it was the right thing for me to decline the collaboration. So I sent him a message saying that I don't feel it's right for me to collaborate with you in a workshop in Sydney. I am focusing on projects that I'm working on in my business, and I'm running less workshops in Sydney. I wish you all the best in your soul-led business, and enjoy the rest of your weekend with your family. And he replied back with kindness, and he said, if it doesn't feel right for you, then that's the right thing for you to do, and I wish you all the success in your business. So when I'm able to pause and reflect, to give myself enough time to connect with spirit, I'm then able to operate from a place of alignment and to communicate my truth from a place of love. And so coming back to the ego is here to show us opportunities for you and I to grow, to recognize our blind spots, to see where else that we need to refine and tweak to come back into ourselves. And that is the beauty of using the ego as our ally, not as a weapon of mindful destruction. I really hope you got something out of my share. And if you are really struggling to make your ego as your friend, and you're so caught up in it that it's a real struggle for you to discern how to observe it and let go of it, I invite you to join me for one of my events and experiences to help you work through your attachment to trauma so you can break away from the illusion of the ego. And when you do get caught up in the illusion, at least you will have the consciousness and the awareness to turn that around and work with the ego, not against it. I am running my Healing Childhood Trauma Workshop in Sydney, and it will be my last one forever. So if you feel called to work on your traumatic experiences in your upbringing, please click on the link below, as I only have a couple of spots left before it sells out. If you can't join me in Sydney, I also have my online ceremony, which is my full moon inner child healing circle via Zoom, and also at my place in Bondi. And this is focusing on healing the fragments of your inner child to connect with yourself with joy, presence, and play. So please make sure you click on the links below to book yourself in for this sacred experience. I am also running my Transforming Trauma Weekend Retreat at Bondi, and I will only take 4 people for an intimate and personalized breakthrough experience for every single individual. This is deeply profound and catered to your needs, so I can work with you in our time together as opposed to a workshop. So if you'd like to learn more, please click on the link below. And lastly, I'll be running my Transforming Trauma Weekend Workshop in Tokyo and in Sydney. And this will be focusing on clearing the traumas from your childhood, your upbringing, your family dynamics, your ancestral lineage, and your past life trauma that's creating karma in this lifetime. So if you would like to learn more, please click on the link below to learn more. So my love, if you got something out of this video, please do me a favor and subscribe to my YouTube channel so I can reach more people through my messages. Please give this video a like, comment below, and share it with your loved ones who need to hear this right now. And may you remember that the ego here is to serve you, that it is here to work with you in your growth and awakening, to see the light that's in your heart.